Welcome to the Midnight Bible Study. I don't know if you're following the war in Israel. We've got, of course, it all began on October 7th with the Hamas crossing into Israel, raping the women in their homes in front of their children, murdering them in the process. Killing some of the children, taking others hostage, shooting babies, apparently beheading them, killing all kinds of people, over 1,000 people, murdering them right in their homes, just going on a rampage through neighborhoods, and they were, offered rewards for taking hostages. So they take all these young women. For we can only imagine what purposes. Just an overall disgusting attack on unarmed, helpless citizens, and murdering all these young kids who were holding a peace rally of some sort near the border, evidently dancing and singing and in pretty much clueless to the danger that was about to become unleashed upon them. So this is where things stand in Israel today. We've got the Houthis firing missiles attempting to fire them into Israel and firing them directly upon U.S. warships. So far they've all been intercepted, which is incredible, but it only takes one to get through, and you've got, you sink a warship, you're talking about hundreds of soldiers, potentially lives are in danger. Hundreds of sailors. And so Iran is backing the Hamas as well as the Hezbollah up north, and literally just flooding those underground tunnels of those two areas with missiles that they're firing into Israel. So is this World War III? Is this, forget World War III, is this the great war of prophecy, Gog and Magog? Because many people have suggested this is the beginning and that World War III is in its early stages. And maybe it is, but the war of Gog and Magog is a very specific war predicted in the Bible by prophecy. Is this it? I mean, we've got Ezekiel 38 and 39 contain some of the most amazing prophecies of the Bible. Now, what's described is a massive invasion of Israel in, quote, the latter years, so in end times, by a group of hostile nations. So not just a couple of, it goes well beyond Hamas in the south and Hezbollah in the north. No, this is going to be by a group of hostile nations. I'm sure many people are aware that Israel is hated by many people and many nations. If they're frequently condemned in the United Nations by a bunch of banana republics and major countries as well. So Ezekiel 38:7-9 explains they will invade Israel. Ezekiel was written over 2,600 years ago. So we have the prediction of this war 2,600 years ago. Now you might say, well, that's outrageous. How could they predict something 26 years later? Well, if you've been following other videos in this channel, you'll see that it's not unusual that the Bible makes exact, precise predictions hundreds and thousands of years in advance. Obviously, because it's not hard to do if you happen to be God and you're outside of time and able to see, the beginning from the end. So Ezekiel was written 2,600 years ago. Now, we don't know the exact date when this particular event is going to happen. We do know it's end time. So now Ezekiel 38:1-6 identifies the invaders. Who are these countries? Is it just who are these countries who are supposedly going to attack Israel? And when I say supposedly, they're going to do it. Israel, the prophecy has a 100% track record. the most unlikely and amazing prophecies over and 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 over again are exactly, they come true over and over again. And this war is not going to be any exception. So Ezekiel 38 identifies the invaders. Let's take a look at who these nations are and see if this is going to happen. Is this fixing to happen real soon? Okay, the nations are, among others, Russia, Turkey, Iran, Sudan, Libya. These are the modern names that I'm giving you. These are not in other words, the Bible may have used slightly different names because these specific geographical areas, the names change over time. So these were the geographical areas. These are the modern names of those of the countries that were identified in the places. So Russia, Turkey, Iran, Sudan, Libya, and Central Asia, including former Soviet countries with 60 million Muslims. So we've got these countries now, does this even seem like the world we live in today? Well, we've got Iran, for sure. They're the ones they're currently providing all the missiles for Hezbollah and Hamas. The Hezbollah and Hamas are essentially front companies for their proxy fighters for Iran. So Iran calls the shots, and these terrorist groups, unleash rocket attacks on Iran, and they're supplied and paid by Iran. So Russia, what about Russia? Well, Russia has become highly intertwined with Iran to the point where Iran is helping. Well, for one thing, Iran is providing a lot of drones for Russia, which they're using in their war in Ukraine, and they're even helping Russia build drone factories on Russian territory. So Russia's highly they have a trade relationship with Iran, which is important to them. Turkey has threatened Israel, and then we have Sudan and Libya. We'll have to see how that comes to pass. These are modern times, and these things could happen at any time. But certain events will need to happen in order to before these happen. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. In other words, is the time now, or is it what's going to happen after? But first, let's talk about the motivation for this attack. To steal the wealth of Israel is one of the key motivations. To crush Israel, which is the country hated by Islamic nations. They hate Israel. That's why countries like Iran threatened to wipe Israel off the map, seemingly that's not a one-time event. They threatened to wipe Israel off the map. They have this thing, and you hear Harvard students chanting it as well, about wipe them all off. Wipe off the whole, from the mountains to the sea, that kind of thing. They chant those kind of things at Harvard at their student cheer rallies. All right, to crush Israel, the hated country. Now, there's other countries that hate them too. All right, to control the Middle East. Iran certainly wants to control the Middle East. That's one of the reasons they want a nuclear weapon. And this will be one of the reasons for the big attack on Israel, to control the Middle East. To challenge the authority of the Antichrist. And now, LaHaye and Henderson, who are my source, point out that these are all human motivations, but God's motivation is to be sanctified in the eyes of the nations. This is Ezekiel 38:14-16. So, Ezekiel 38:7-9. Okay, where's this going to occur? It's going to occur in the mountains of Israel. When? The Bible only mentions 2 times when Israel will be at peace. 2 times. Now, this is the key. Well, this is the key question because, Many people, I've heard them predicting that this could be happening now. But are they right? And is this going to happen, let's say, next week, next month, next year? Are we just building up to it right now? Well, the Bible mentions 2 times when Israel will be at peace, and this war of Gog and Magog is going to happen when Israel will be at peace. Were they at peace before October 7th? Well, that's an interesting question. Essentially, since 1948, when Israel became a country, they have been in a constant state of threat. They've been constantly under threat, and there's walls. I mean, Israel's got walls. In fact, they have walls around to protect them from Gaza. So another part of it, the prophecy, is that this will be a country without walls. Well, that doesn't really sound like Israel now. So it makes it sound like this war of Gog and Magog is not going to happen anytime real soon. So the first time when it could happen is a brief 3.5 period of peace during the first half of the 7-year tribulation that begins with the Antichrist, when the Antichrist makes a covenant of peace with Israel. So there's the Antichrist he'll have arrived, he's going to make a covenant and peace with Israel, and then there will be a 3.5 years of peace. And at that point, they'll have peace. The second period of peace will be when Jesus returns to destroy the enemies of Israel and to inaugurate his 1,000-year kingdom of peace centered in Israel. So Isaiah 2:4 says, "And he shall judge among the nations, and shall rebuke many people, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore." So you can see, nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. So it sounds like total peace. I mean, they're not even learning war. They don't have soldiers training for national defense. That's going to be a different time. So those are the 2 times. So based on that criteria, it seems like it isn't going to happen right away, but things can change quickly, as we know. So it's really hard to say right now exactly when it's going to happen. Now, October 7th, kids were partying and dancing. They seemed to be oblivious of the danger. However, they were not living without walls, as I mentioned. They were seeking peace, but they were seeking peace because there was a threat. All right. Now, who will win this war of Gog and Magog? God will rule. God will rule. Anyone who bets against God, I'd like to make a bet with you. I'd like to bet with you. That's all right. So let's take a look at Ezekiel 38 and find out about who will win and what it's going to be like, because this is going to be this future war. And again, things can happen very quickly. We see the tearing down of the Berlin Wall. We see the Russian Revolution. We see the French Revolution, the American Revolution. Revolutions can happen. Dramatic things can happen. So when I say it doesn't look like it's going to happen next week, it could happen. I mean, things would have to, not next week, probably not next week. I don't think things change that quickly. But maybe next year it could happen. I mean, we could have drama and international chaos, and then suddenly, realignment, and things are, boiling over. And next thing you know, we thought, well, nothing could happen, and all of a sudden everything is different, and it could set up. So we can't be too sure. We can't be too confident that we aren't getting close to the time. So it will come, Ezekiel 38, it will come about on that day when Gog comes against the land of Israel, declares the Lord, that my fury will mount up in my anger. So God declares the Lord, my fury will mount up in my anger. That's how you know that Russia is going to lose, that the Gog is going to lose. All these hateful nations that want to destroy Israel, steal their wealth, control the Middle East, they're going to lose. They're going to lose. It's just that simple. Because why? Because God's fury will mount up in His anger. That was a foolish move. A foolish move for somebody to provoke God. By the way, in the desert, when Jesus was fasting, the second temptation was for Jesus to jump off the cliff, and Jesus said, "Get away from me, Satan! Thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God." I believe that's what these countries are going to be doing. They're going to be tempting the Lord thy God. That's going to work against them. 38:19. In my zeal and in my blazing wrath, I declare that on that day there will surely be a great earthquake in the land of Israel. Now keep in mind, guess who runs the earthquakes? God has different weapons, a different weapon arsenal than, let's say, Russia does. They have earthquakes. Iran can't compete with earthquakes. Isaiah 38:20. The fish of the sea, the birds of the heaven, the beasts of the field, all creeping things that creep on the earth, and all the men who are on the face of the earth will shake at my presence. The mountains will also be thrown down. That's a bad earthquake. They're throwing down mountains, and steep pathways will collapse every way and will fall to the ground. 21. I will call for a sword against him on all my mountains, declares the Lord. Every man's sword will be against his brother. So God is going to confound these mad raiders and turn them against each other, and they're going to be fighting each other and destroy each other. Could that happen? Of course it could. It's already happened in biblical history. We saw it with the Battle of Gideon. Ezekiel 38:22. With disease, with pestilence, with blood, I will enter into judgment with him, and will rain on him and on his troops, and on many peoples are with him. So God will unleash pestilence and disease on these ravaged troops that are attempting to take over Israel and destroy Israel. 23. I will magnify myself and sanctify myself and make myself known in the sight of many nations, and they will know that I am the Lord. So you want to tempt God? Good luck with that one. Good luck with that one. Israel's going to come out on top of that war, even though they're going to be vastly outnumbered, and it's going to be a David and Goliath story once again. Ezekiel 39:6-7. God says, I will send fire on Magog and on those who live in safety in the coastlands, and they will know that I am Lord. Let's see, who lives in safety on the coastlands? We know one of the people who lives on the coastlands is Hamas. They're down there. They have the beautiful coastline. I mean, if they had taken all that money, all those billions of dollars given to them in aid, if they would have just taken that and turned their country into a beautiful resort on the Mediterranean and set up factories and trade, they could be a very prosperous place. But instead, they spent all that money on building tunnels and missiles, and basically funding Hamas and terror against Israel, and it didn't work out. I will send fire. Okay, 39:7. I will make known my holy name among people of Israel. I will no longer let my holy name be profaned, and the nations will know that I am the Lord, the Holy One of Israel. So if you want to try to humiliate God, who's thinking up these plans? All right, next point. The aftermath. What's it after the battle? What's it gonna be like? Carnage, where birds of prey and animals eat the flesh of fallen invaders. Carnage. It's going to be an absolute bloodbath of these fallen invaders, and they're going to be flocks of birds of prey are going to be feeding on their flesh out in the fields. Animals, you're going to see dogs out there and other animals just eating the flesh off their bodies. Ezekiel 39:18, ye shall eat the flesh of the mighty and drink the blood of the princes of the earth, of rams, of lamb, and of goats, of bullocks, all of them fatlings. of Bashan. So it's going to be ugly. Why these people want to go against God, I don't know. That's their plan, though, or it will be their plan. That's what's going to happen. Prophecy is a 100% success rate. There you go, folks. That's what you need to know about the infamous war of Gog and Magog. This is oftentimes we look at wars in history. In this case, we're looking in the future because it's a future war. So it's very extraordinary that we get all the details in advance. Thank you. Good night God bless you, and good night from the Midnight Bible Study.